Of course, if you read the title, you already know what we're about to be talking about in here. We're going to be talking about MEPS and how they lost my file. Before we get started, just know the Air Force does not sponsor this video. I do not speak on behalf of the Air Force. I am giving you guys a real story from my life and how it all played out. So if you're interested to see how MEPS lost my file, stay tuned for this video. When you go and join the Air Force, there is a very long process. Honestly, it was long for me. It could be easier for other people or longer for other people. I honestly don't know. If you are in the Air Force or any military branch and you have experiences, just comment them down below. I love to read about them. When you first join the Air Force, you have to get medically cleared. And to get medically cleared, you have to go to what's called MEPS. MEPS is basically this huge clinic where you go that has every step that they need for you to get cleared in one building. Eyes, clinic, and of course there is always the drug test when you go to MEPS too. So I go to MEPS. It's always early. If you don't know that, it's always extremely early when you go to MEPS. About 6 a.m. You go and you wait until they let everybody in. When they let everybody in, if you haven't taken your ASVAB, you go and take your ASVAB, and then you schedule an appointment to do MEPS. So I took my ASVAB, I'm scheduled MEPS, and I'm here on the day 6 a.m. and I'm going through all of these processes. I don't remember exactly what all of them are, but the basis is that you have to be in good health to join the military. I'm almost done with MEPS. I get to the point where they're examining your body to see how your body is, and I have what is called cysts in my wrist. When I was joining MEPS, I only had one really big one in my left wrist. So my medical examiner, she tells me, hey, you gotta go and get this checked out. They schedule me an appointment, and I have to come back on the day of that appointment to be able to go and get my wrist checked out. A couple weeks go by. I finally get my appointment for my wrist, and I'm up again, 5:30 in the morning, headed to MEPS to go and get my wrist checked out. By this time, my cyst had popped. If you didn't know what a cyst is, it's basically like this ball of oil that's in different parts, or liquid, not oil, that's in different parts of your body. It kind of forms. They're known to be mostly harmless, but they can cause different effects. But that's like a general definition of it. I had a cyst. It had popped because in MEPS downstairs you have to pass a weight portion, and in that weight portion you have to lift different weights, and in that process my cyst had popped. I'm back at the doctor's now, and he medically clears me. He says, hey, this cyst isn't messing with any of your functions, like you can move all your fingers, He gives me a paper saying, hey, she can join the Air Force. They have a bus come pick me back up, and I go back to MEPS. And when I get there and hand in my paperwork, they can't find my file, and I'm just thinking, like, is it really possible for them to lose your file in 2 weeks? Like, MEPS is supposed to be the most organized place ever, right? Of course, every place has its faults and everybody has their faults. I was worried because the date that I wanted to choose to leave was coming up, and so I wanted to get it done quickly. So they tell me, hey, Ms. Brown, I lost your file. We can't seem to find it, and at this point, there is nothing that we can do about your file. So they send me home on my way, and they say, hey, we will call you if we find your file. Of course, that left me with so many questions, right? I'm like, what the fuck? MEPS lost my file. What do I do? What do I do about this? I'm like, I have no idea what to do. So I Google a bunch of things like what happens when MEPS loses your file. I YouTube it. What happens when MEPS loses your file? Like, I call my recruiter and he gives me a short answer for what happens when MEPS loses your file, which is that you're supposed to, or you're going to have to redo these small steps that's in there, which means like the big general idea of it. So like passing your eye exam and passing the drug test again. But in fact, that is not what happens when MEP loses your file. you have to redo your entire MEPS file over again when MEPS loses your file. So I got the call that no, they can't find my file. It's nowhere to be found. So I have to come back in to do my file over again. And at this point, I am so mad. Seriously, that's just how I feel. I'm on a deadline. I'm trying to be up and out of here by a certain time. At this point, I'm like full flash ahead, ready to join the military, and this is putting a stump in my plans. So another day goes on. 5 a.m. in the morning. For the third time, I am at MEPS in this line waiting to enter. And when you redo your file in MEPS, they don't just jumpstart you to the front of the line like, hey, this is our bad, we messed up, let's get you in and out. Like, let's get your file done so that you can leave and finish about your business. You are back in line with everybody else waiting and going through the same process as everybody else, meaning that you're going to be at MEPS all day again. And it's just a really long process to do your drug test. You have to redo your blood test, your eye test, your medical exam. And if you had any waivers in your file that didn't get filed, or you just don't have a copy of them, you will have to redo your waivers. Or at least I did when my MEPS lost my file. It was crazy, you guys. The moral of this story is, if you guys ever go to MEPS and they lose your file, yes, you have to redo everything that was in your file already, from top to bottom. That is what happened to me. That is how MEPS lost my file. If you guys have any similar or crazy military stories that you would like to share, please feel free to comment them down below.
Tell me pretty lies, look me in the face, tell me that you love me.